He told me to be gentle with my female boss. Then I discovered they were co-signers on a loan bearing my forged signature. A secret debt meant to trap me became the key to building my empire. Tonight, I'll repay them in front of the board, legal counsel, and my husband. When the acceleration clause kicks in, who's really getting squeezed? They thought they'd buried me under $70,000 of fraudulent debt. Instead, I'm about to show them how a forged signature can forge a new future, one where their betrayal becomes the foundation of my success. My name is Harper Quinn, and I used to believe in the stability of my carefully constructed life. 32 years old, senior brand identity designer at North Star Origin, married to Dylan Reed for 7 years. We lived in Riverton, one of those booming Midwest logistics hubs where warehouses sprouted like corn and everyone pretended the American dream still meant something. Dylan managed operations for a warehouse chain always busy, always exhausted, always somewhere else. I understood. Or I told myself I did. The logistics boom meant long hours for everyone. When my phone buzzed at 11:45 p.m. with another project revision from Veronica Hale, my direct supervisor, I didn't question why Dylan's jaw tightened at the sound. "She's got you working late again." He didn't look up from his tablet, but his fingers stopped scrolling. "Major rebrand for Clearwater Industries. Veronica says it could make or break our quarter." I stretched, vertebrae popping after 9 hours hunched over design software. "Maybe you should set boundaries." His voice carried that particular edge-concerned husband mixed with something I couldn't quite identify. "Veronica's taking advantage?" Strange, considering just last week I'd seen him typing a LinkedIn message congratulating Veronica on her speaking engagement. Strange, but not strange enough to pierce through my deadline fog. The signs accumulated like dust on blinds visible only when the light hit just right. Dylan's phone lighting up at 2:15 screen carefully angled away. A notification preview I wasn't supposed to see. Can't wait for Tuesday. The way he suddenly knew Veronica's coffee order oat milk cortado. Extra shot when he picked me up from office emergencies. "You're paranoid," he said when I mentioned the midnight calls. "Client in Shanghai. Time zones." "You're creating problems," he said when I asked about the photo of Veronica at some conference that appeared in our shared cloud storage. Probably uploaded by accident when I was helping with the company newsletter. Gaslighting has a particular texture smooth at first, like silk against your skin, until you realize it's wrapped around your throat. Every concern I raised got reflected back as evidence of my own instability. Working too hard. Stressed about deadlines. Jealous of successful women. Creating drama where none existed. I started keeping notes in a password-protected file labeled Recipe Chat Ideas 2024. Screenshots of credit card charges at Bistro Laurent every Tuesday at 12:30 p.m. Calendar invites Dylan declined for warehouse inventory that coincidentally aligned with Veronica's mysterious lunch blocks. The earring not mine that materialized in his car and vanished after I photographed it. 3 weeks ago, Veronica called me into her office. Glass walls, minimalist furniture, a view of Riverton's attempt at a skyline. She sat behind her desk like a general planning invasion routes. "Harper, we need to discuss your attitude." I kept my face neutral, a skill perfected over months of practice. "Could you be more specific? Dylan's concerned about your behavior at home, how it might affect your performance here?" She leaned back, French manicured nails drumming against Italian leather. "We all want what's best for you." The "we" hung in the air like perfume cloying, invasive. That night, Dylan initiated the conversation I'd been documenting for weeks. He sat me down at our kitchen island, under the pendant lights we'd chosen together when we still shared dreams instead of secrets. "You need to apologize to Veronica." "For what, exactly?" "Your hostility, your paranoia. It's affecting my reputation." He pushed a wine glass toward me, my favorite Pinot, a peace offering wrapped in manipulation. "She's been nothing but professional, and you're creating a hostile work environment." "You want me to apologize to my boss for—" "What? Doing my job. Meeting deadlines." His face hardened, the mask slipping just enough to reveal something cruel underneath. "If you value our marriage, you'll fix this." I took a sip of wine, let it sit on my tongue while I calculated. "Fine, but I do it properly, in the North Star conference room, with HR and legal counsel present. Full documentation." His eyes lit up, victory misinterpreted. "That's actually perfect. Show everyone you're taking responsibility." That night, while Dylan snored beside me, I opened my laptop and began my real work. Not the designs Veronica claimed credit for, but something far more intricate. I pulled transaction histories, cross-referenced calendars, mapped patterns. Every Tuesday for 9 months, identical charges, identical times, identical lies. An email accidentally forwarded to the entire project team instead of just Veronica Dillon's name in the CC field where no vendor communication should include him. The subject line, "Re-paperwork completion." The attachment password protected. I smiled in the laptop's blue glow. They wanted an apology. I'd give them one they'd never forget. Tomorrow, I'd start pulling the thread that would unravel everything. But tonight, I documented. Tonight, I planned. Tonight, I transformed from victim to architect of my own revenge. The ultimatum came on a Thursday evening, delivered with the precision of a surgical strike. Dylan stood in our bedroom doorway, blocking my exit not physically, but with the weight of his words. "Tomorrow. You apologize to Veronica tomorrow, or we're done." I folded the laundry with mechanical precision, each crease a moment to think. That's quite the deadline. "I'm serious. Harper, I've already told her you'll meet at 2 p.m. She's graciously agreed to accept your apology despite everything you've put her through." Everything I'd put her through. The phrase lodged in my chest like shrapnel. I recognized the pattern now. Victim and perpetrator reversed. Reality inverted until I questioned my own memories. Classic Darvo deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. "I'll apologize," I said, smoothing out a pillowcase. "But I already told you it happens in the conference room with witnesses, legal counsel, HR, the project stakeholders. If I'm taking responsibility, I want everything documented." His face cycled through emotions: surprise, calculation, satisfaction. "You're making this bigger than it needs to be." "Am I? You just threatened our marriage?" "I'd say it's exactly as big as it needs to be." He left the room, already texting. Through the door, I heard him murmur, "She's agreed. Yeah, the full circus. She wants to humiliate herself publicly." Perfect. That night, I dove deeper into my investigation. The Bistro Laurent charges revealed a pattern: always the executive lunch menu, always for two, always expensed to Dylan's company card under client development. Funny how his warehouse clients all seemed to lunch at the same upscale French restaurant where Veronica posted her working lunch Instagram stories. I accessed North Star's shared drive technically within my permissions as senior designer, project timelines, budget allocations, contract templates. But buried in a mislabeled folder called Q3 Archive Old, I found something interesting: draft documents with metadata showing both Dylan and Veronica as recent editors. My phone buzzed at 11:58 p.m. A text from an unknown number. "You should check the notary records for July 15th. I didn't respond, but I did check. Public records. Beautiful public records. A document notarized at Preston and Associates, signed by Dylan Reed and Veronica Hale. The type of document wasn't specified, but the timing lined up with a warehouse emergency that had kept Dylan out until 3 a.m. Friday morning arrived gray and humid, typical Midwest autumn. I dressed carefully, my best suit, the one that made me look like I owned things instead of designed them. Dylan watched me apply makeup with the intensity of someone watching a prisoner prepare for execution. "You don't need to dress up to apologize." "I dress up when I'm taking things seriously." I applied lipstick, the color Veronica once called aggressive in a team meeting. "You wanted professional? This is professional." At North Star, I scheduled the conference room for 3 p.m., not 2. When Dylan texted asking about the time change, I responded simply, legal counsel availability. Let them sweat an extra hour. I spent the morning gathering allies without them knowing they were allies. Luis Merritt, our interim CFO, got a casual question about IP ownership documentation. Just making sure everything's properly attributed for the Clearwater project, I explained. He promised to pull the records. To Rebecca Lowe, the independent legal consultant I'd found through a discreet inquiry, I sent a package of documents via encrypted email. Her response came within an hour. We need to talk. Not over email. Our call lasted 43 minutes. When it ended, I had a clear path forward and she had a retainer check. The pattern of forgery is clear, she said. But the acceleration clause, that's your golden ticket. If you can prove fraud or misrepresentation, the entire debt structure collapses and converts to immediate payment or asset transfer. At 2:45 p.m., I entered the conference room with a banker's box of documents. Dylan and Veronica were already there, seated side by side, a unified front that confirmed everything I suspected. Veronica wore her power dress, the Alexander McQueen she saved for board presentations. Dylan fidgeted with his wedding ring. "Where's everyone else?" Veronica asked, irritation creeping into her voice. "On their way. Luis is pulling some files. Legal is finishing a call." I set the box on the table with a decisive thud. "While we wait, I've prepared some materials to provide context for my apology." Dylan's eyes narrowed. "Harper, this is exactly what you asked for." I pulled out the first folder, labeled simply Tuesday. A comprehensive taking of responsibility. "Isn't that what you wanted?" The door opened. Luis entered with our head of legal, followed by two board members who happened to be in the building. Rebecca Lowe came last, her presence causing both Dylan and Veronica to stiffen. "Who is she?" Veronica demanded. "My legal counsel," I replied sweetly. "You said you wanted this documented properly. I'm simply ensuring we do this by the book." I stood at the head of the table, my finger hovering over my laptop's trackpad. On the screen behind me, an apology and full disclosure by Harper Quinn. Shall we begin? The discovery happened at 2:37 a.m. on a Wednesday, 3 days before the scheduled apology. I'd been searching for the mysterious July document when I stumbled upon something far worse in Northstar's legal repository, a file buried under Vendor Agreements, MISC 2024. A promissory note for $70,000. My hands trembled as I read the terms. Borrower Dylan Reed. Lender Veronica Hale. Interest rate 18%. And there, on the signature line for co-guarantor Harper Quinn, my signature, except it wasn't. The H was too upright, the Q too narrow. Someone had practiced, but not quite enough. The collateral made my blood freeze. All intellectual property rights for Project Clearwater brand identity, currently under development by guarantor. I photographed every page, uploaded to 3 different cloud services, and printed hard copies. Then I read the acceleration clause again, my pulse hammering. In the event of fraud, misrepresentation, or breach of good faith, the full amount becomes immediately due or convertible to equivalent asset value at lender's discretion. They'd built a trap using my own creativity as bait. The next morning, I met Rebecca Lowe at a coffee shop 30 miles outside Riverton. She examined the documents with the intensity of a surgeon studying X-rays. "This is sophisticated," she said, adjusting her reading glasses. "But they made mistakes? First, the notary who supposedly witnessed your signature. I checked. She was in Florida that entire week for her daughter's wedding. Second, the UCC-1 filing is incorrectly formatted. They filed it under personal property instead of intellectual property rights. Can we prove the signature is forged? Already arranged for a forensic document examiner. Rush job, but worth it." She pulled out another paper. "But here's what's interesting. Veronica filed an internal IP ownership transfer request 2 weeks ago, claiming you'd agreed to reassign Clearwater materials to her for efficiency. It was flagged but not processed. She was preparing for when I couldn't pay." The coffee tasted like acid. "Force me into default, seize the IP, Probably fire me for cause. Except she didn't count on you finding this first. Rebecca smiled sharp, predatory. The acceleration clause works both ways. If we can prove fraud on their part, you can demand immediate payment or asset conversion. What assets? It's my signature on the line. Even if forged. That's where this gets beautiful. She pulled up something on her tablet. Veronica used company resources to process this loan. She listed her North Star email, used the office address, and this is key, marked it as a business expense on her quarterly report. That makes any IP she was trying to acquire through this loan corporate property, not personal. I stared at the screen. So, if I trigger the acceleration clause, you could claim the entire package, the loan amount, the IP rights, potentially damages for fraud. But more importantly, she leaned forward. You could negotiate for something better, your own carved-out division, for instance. That afternoon, I created Brightline Atelier, LLC, a Delaware corporation, filed electronically, with myself as sole proprietor. I opened business bank accounts, secured a virtual office address, and registered the trademark. By evening, I had a corporate structure capable of receiving assets. Elijah Ward contacted me that night, Veronica's ex-husband, a forensic accountant who'd been suspiciously quiet during their divorce. "I know what you're looking for," he said without preamble when I answered his call. "Veronica's been running this play for years. Check her previous employer. Similar pattern, different victim." We met at a diner off Interstate 70. Elijah brought spreadsheets, beautiful, damning spreadsheets showing money movements, patterns, a clear trail of financial manipulation spanning 3 companies. "Tuesday lunches," he said, sliding a highlighted page across the table. "Always Tuesday. She calls it her strategy session. Check the dates against your husband's schedule." I did, right there on my phone. Perfect alignment for 9 months. "Why help me?" I asked. "Because she destroyed my reputation during our divorce, claimed I was embezzling when she was the one moving money." His jaw clenched. "I want to watch her fall. You'll get your wish. Can you testify to these patterns?" "With pleasure." I returned home at 11 p.m. to find Dylan pacing the living room. "Where were you?" "Working on my apology." I set my bag down carefully. The documents inside weighing more than paper should. "You wanted it to be thorough." "Veronica's nervous. She thinks you're planning something." "She's right." I walked past him toward the stairs. "But not what she expects." "Harper, please, just apologize. Make this go away." I turned on the 5th step, looking down at him. "Oh, I'm going to make it go away. Every bit of it." His phone buzzed 11:18 right on schedule. He didn't answer it, but I saw Veronica's name on the screen. They were scared. Good. The war room was my home office, transformed into a command center for corporate takedown. Timeline charts covered the walls, color-coded, cross-referenced, devastating. Green pins for financial transfers, red for forged documents, blue for Tuesday lunches. The pattern was so clear it looked like modern art. Rebecca Lowe arrived at 7 a.m., sharp with 2 paralegals and a forensic document examiner. We had 6 hours before the meeting. "Walk me through the sequence," Rebecca commanded, standing before my wall of evidence. January 15th, first Tuesday lunch appears on both calendars. February 3rd, Dylan requests a personal loan from our joint savings, claims it's for his brother's medical bills. I have texts from his brother from that week thanking us for thoughts and prayers, mentioning his excellent insurance coverage. I pointed to the printouts. February 20th, first, promissory note draft created. Metadata shows Veronica's computer as origin device. March through May. Establishing pattern. Lunches continue. Small transfers begin. Dylan moves money from our accounts to his personal, then withdrawals matching amounts in cash. Untraceable, except I pulled up bank footage timestamps. ATM cameras show him entering North Star building 40 minutes after each withdrawal. One paralegal whistled low. "That's meticulous." July 15th, the forgery. I handed over the original document. But here's what they didn't know. I always sign important documents with a specific pen, a Mont Blanc my father gave me. It has a unique ink formulation, slightly blue-black instead of pure black. This signature standard Bic black. The examiner nodded. I can work with that. Chain of custody. Unbroken, downloaded from North Star's system. Digital fingerprint intact. Rebecca was already drafting the notice of default. We need the CFO on our side. Already done. I showed her my email exchange with Luis Merritt. He's confirmed that Project Clearwater's IP valuation stands at $300,000 minimum. He's also disturbed by Veronica's attempt to transfer ownership without proper board approval. What about witnesses for the Tuesday pattern? 3 restaurant employees ready to provide statements. They remember the couple who always ordered the same thing, always sat in the corner booth, always paid cash. I pulled up photos from the bistro's social media. Veronica even tagged herself there twice. Dylan visible in the background. At 9:15 a.m., I received a text from an unknown number. She knows something's wrong. Moving up timeline. Check your email. The email was from Veronica, copying Dylan and HR. Due to urgent operational needs, we'll need to move the meeting to noon. Panic mode, Rebecca observed. Perfect. They'll make mistakes. I responded to all, unfortunately, legal counsel and key stakeholders are locked into 3 p.m. However, I'm happy to provide preliminary documentation for review. I attached a single page, the cover sheet of a forensic audit report. Just enough to show them I had everything. My phone exploded with calls. Dylan. Veronica. Dylan again. I let them all go to voicemail. At 10:45 a.m., the design team group chat lit up. My colleague, Marcus. Why is Veronica shredding documents? I screenshot everything. Luis Merritt called at 11:30 a.m. Harper, I've discovered some irregularities. Can you meet me in my office? When I arrived, he had his own timeline spread across his desk. Veronica authorized payments to a shell company, Meridian Consulting. It's registered to Dylan's cousin. The payments match your loan amount plus the interest to date. They were washing the money through the company. That's embezzlement. His face was grave. This is beyond interpersonal drama. This is criminal. I know. That's why I need your support when I trigger the acceleration clause. He studied me carefully. What are you planning? A surgical extraction. Veronica and Dylan get removed, but North Star keeps operating. The IP stays protected, just under new management. I slid him Brightline Atelier's incorporation documents. My management. The board will want to minimize liability. Exactly. I'm offering them a clean exit. Let me carve out the tainted assets, take the team that wants to come, and North Star distances itself from the scandal. Luis leaned back. You've thought of everything. Not everything, but enough. At 1 p.m., Elijah Ward arrived with his evidence boxes. 12 months of financial forensics, documented patterns from Veronica's previous 2 employers, and a signed affidavit about their Tuesday routine during their marriage. She called it strategic partnerships, he said bitterly. I was too blind to see the strategy was always acquisition through destruction. The whiteboard now showed the full conspiracy loan origination, forgery execution, money laundering through Meridian Consulting, attempted IP theft, and employment law violations. Each element connected with arrows, evidence tagged with document numbers. Rebecca stood back, admiring the web we'd woven. This is bulletproof. It needs to be. They'll fight dirty. Let them try. She held up the notice of default, now notarized and ready. The acceleration clause is clear. Upon proof of fraud, which we have in abundance, you can demand immediate payment or asset transfer. Given they can't pay, assets it is. At 2:45 p.m., we loaded everything into the conference room, boxes of evidence, projector ready, legal documents in precise order, the room filled with the energy of an impending storm. Ready, Rebecca asked. I thought of 9 months of gaslighting, of Tuesday lunches, of my signature forged by the hand that wore my wedding ring. Let's bury them. The conference room at 3 p.m. Looked like a corporate tribunal. The long mahogany table reflected the faces of everyone who mattered. Luis Merritt at the head, 2 board members flanking him, North Star's head of legal, Rebecca Lowe beside me, and at the far end, Dylan and Veronica, their body language screaming barely contained panic. I stood, smoothing my skirt, and clicked the first slide. "Thank you all for coming. I want to apologize." I paused, watching Veronica's shoulders relax slightly. For staying silent for so long. The relaxation vanished. "What I'm about to show you affects not just my personal life, but North Star's financial integrity and intellectual property security." Click. The promissory note filled the screen. "This is a $70,000 loan between my husband and my supervisor, with my forged signature as guarantor." "That's a serious accusation," Veronica interrupted, voice sharp but trembling. "It's not an accusation. It's a fact." Click. The forensic handwriting analysis appeared, overlays showing the discrepancies, ink analysis, pressure patterns. Certified by 3 independent experts. Dylan started to stand. "This is ridiculous." "Sit down, Mr. Reed," Luis commanded. "We're just getting started." Click. The Tuesday timeline unfolded 9 months of synchronized lunches, each one documented with receipts, photographs, witness statements. The room was silent except for the hum of the projector. "Every Tuesday for 9 months," I continued, voice steady as steel. "12:30 to 2 p.m. at Bistro Laurent. Always the corner booth. Always the executive lunch special. Always paid in cash that came from our joint account via ATM withdrawals made by Dylan 40 minutes prior." Click. Elijah Ward's evidence appeared, the same pattern from Veronica's previous employer. "This is historical documentation showing an identical scheme at Preston Communications, where Ms. Hale previously worked. Same structure, different victim." Veronica's lawyer mask cracked. "You can't prove. Actually, I can." Click. The email appeared, the one she'd accidentally forwarded to the entire project team. The subject line blazed across the screen: "Re-IP transfer once complete." The body text was partially visible. "Once the deal closes, the entire Clearwater package becomes ours through the acceleration clause. Harper won't even know what hit." "That's taken out of context." Veronica's voice pitched higher. "Then provide the context," Rebecca challenged. "We'll wait." Silence. Click. The UCC filing appeared, with Luis's annotations showing the improper classification. This fraudulent filing attempted to secure intellectual property worth over $300,000 using a forged signature on a $70,000 loan. That's wire fraud. Ms. Hale, the head of legal, was taking rapid notes. "This is significant. It gets worse." Click. The Meridian Consulting documents materialized. This shell company, registered to Dylan's cousin, received exactly $70,000 from North Star accounts, authorized by Veronica, labeled as consultant services. Those funds then disappeared. "Embezzlement," Luis stated flatly. "Clear and documented." Dylan's face had gone gray. "I want a lawyer." "You should have thought of that before forging my signature." I clicked again. The acceleration clause filled the screen, highlighted in yellow. "According to this clause, which you both signed, discovery of fraud triggers immediate payment or asset conversion." I placed the notice of default on the table, sliding copies to each person. "As of 2:47 p.m. today, this loan is in default due to fraudulent origination. The full amount is now due." "We'll pay it back," Dylan stammered. "With what?" I asked. "The money you embezzled that's already been reported to the authorities." Veronica stood abruptly. "This is extortion." "No," Rebecca interjected. "This is contract law. You wrote these terms yourself. Rather poorly. I might add." I clicked to the final slide, Brightline Ateliers and Corporation documents. "However, I'm prepared to offer a solution that protects North Star from liability." Luis leaned forward. "Go on." the tainted IP package, everything connected to Clearwater and 3 other projects Veronica attempted to claim, gets carved out into Brightline Atelier. I take full ownership, along with any team members who choose to join me. North Star avoids the scandal, keeps operating, and distances itself from criminal proceedings. And in exchange, the board member asked, Veronica and Dylan sign full confessions, agree to restitution, and accept whatever consequences law enforcement determines. North Star provides a clean legal separation and transition support for the carved-out assets. This is insane! Veronica slammed her palm on the table. You can't… Actually, the head of legal interrupted, studying the documents. The acceleration clause is binding, the fraud is documented, and the proposed solution minimizes corporate liability. I pulled out my phone, showing a recording app. I should mention that Elijah Ward is in the lobby with additional evidence. 3 other victims from Veronica's past are prepared to testify, and the FBI's white-collar crime division has expressed interest in the embezzlement pattern. The room went silent. Outside, someone walked past, heels clicking on marble. Normal corporate life continuing while inside. An empire changed hands. I need the board's decision, I said quietly. The authorities are expecting my call at 4 p.m. Luis stood. Board members, we need to convene. Ms. Quinn, Ms. Lowe, please wait outside. Ms. Hale, Mr. Reed, you stay here. As I gathered my documents, I made eye contact with Dylan one last time. He looked like a stranger, hollow, defeated, exposed. The man who'd gaslit me for months, who'd convinced me I was paranoid, who'd threatened our marriage to protect his grift, sat shrinking in his chair. Harper, he whispered. I walked out without responding. There was nothing left to say. The notice of fraud and acceleration was served at 3:58 p.m., 2 minutes before my deadline to call the authorities. The document, bound in legal blue backing, carried the weight of absolute destruction. Rebecca placed it directly in front of Veronica with the precision of a chess master delivering checkmate. By the terms you yourself created, Rebecca announced, you have exactly 0 days to pay the full $70,000 plus accumulated interest, totaling $84,600. Failure to pay triggers immediate asset transfer? Veronica's hands shook as she read. The boardroom had reconvened, their decision unanimous: protect North Star at all costs. I need time. The acceleration clause you wrote doesn't provide for time. I opened my laptop, displaying the forensic signature analysis from 3 independent experts. Dr. Martinez from the Document Verification Institute, Professor Williams from Northwestern's Forensic Science Program, and retired FBI examiner Special Agent Sarah Coleman. All 3 confirm forgery with 99.7% certainty. Luis interjected. The board has approved the asset transfer proposal. Ms. Quinn, Brightline Atelier will receive the entire IP bundle, associated client relationships, and pipeline projects. That's company property. Veronica stood, her chair scraping against marble. Property you attempted to steal using fraudulent documents. The head of legal corrected. The board views this as the least damaging resolution. Unless you'd prefer we pursue criminal charges for embezzlement. I clicked through to the next screen the transfer agreement, already drafted by Rebecca's team. Option 1, sign the asset transfer, accept termination for cause, and face only civil proceedings. Option 2, refuse, and I make my 4 p.m. call to the FBI white-collar crime division. You planned this. Dylan's voice was hollow, defeated. No. You planned this. I pulled up the email metadata. You started planning in December, according to these document creation dates. I just planned better. Rebecca distributed the signature pages. The acceleration is already in effect. Sign or face immediate legal action for the full amount plus damages. The room held its breath. Outside, Riverton's skyline glowed amber in the late afternoon sun. 9 months of deception were about to end in 9 minutes of signatures. Veronica picked up the pen, her hand trembling. I want immunity from prosecution. You want? I laughed sharp, bitter. You forged my signature. You embezzled funds. You attempted to steal intellectual property worth $300,000. What you want is irrelevant. Sign it. Veronica. Elijah Ward entered the room, carrying a banker's box. Or I file my civil suit for the assets you hid during our divorce. Now that I have proof of your pattern. She looked around the room. No allies, no exits, no options. The pen moved across paper, each letter of her signature an admission of defeat. Dylan's turn, Rebecca announced. My husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, stared at the document. What about our house? Our accounts? Community property laws are clear, I responded. Your fraudulent acts don't entitle you to marital assets, but sign this, and I won't pursue damages that would bankrupt you. Harper, please, sign it. He did, the pen nearly slipping from his sweaty grip. Luis stood immediately. As interim CFO, I hereby recognize the transfer of specified assets to Brightline Atelier, effective immediately. IT will provide system access within the hour. I opened a folder, revealing employment agreements. For any team members who wish to transition to Brightline, I have contracts ready. Same salaries, better profit sharing, actual attribution for your work. Marcus, who'd been quietly invited to witness the latter portion, stepped forward first. Where do I sign? 3 more designers followed, then 2 project managers. Within minutes, half of Veronica's team had aligned with Brightline Atelier. This is corporate raid, Veronica protested. This is consequence, I corrected. Every person here knows how you've claimed credit for their work. They're choosing attribution over exploitation. The head of legal gathered the signed documents. Ms. Hale, Mr. Reed, security will escort you to gather personal items. Your access badges are revoked, effective immediately. 2 security guards entered discreet, professional, devastating in their implication. Your personal vehicles will be searched for company property, Luis added. Standard procedure for termination with cause. As they stood to leave, I delivered the final blow. Oh, Veronica. That speaking engagement next month at the Design Leadership Summit. They've been notified about the IP theft. Your invitation has been rescinded. Her face crumpled the final humiliation in a cascade of destruction. Dylan paused at the door, turning back. How long have you known? Long enough to document everything. I pulled up a file dated 6 months ago. Recipe? Ideas 2024, but containing screenshot after screenshot of evidence. You taught me to gaslight myself. Dylan. But I learned to trust the receipts instead. Security led them out. Through the glass walls, I watched them walk the length of North Star's open office, every employee watching, whispers following their path like funeral prayers. The acceleration clause, Rebecca announced to the room, is now fully executed. Brightline Atelier owns all specified assets, free and clear. I signed my name with my Mont Blanc pen in blue-black ink, unmistakably mine on the acceptance documents. Each signature reclaimed what they'd tried to steal: my work, my worth, my identity. Luis shook my hand. North Star will honor all client transitions. We'll announce it as a strategic spin-off. Thank you. I turned to my new team. Brightline Atelier's first meeting is Monday, 9 a.m. We have clients to dazzle. The conference room emptied slowly, leaving me alone with Rebecca. Outside, the sun set over Riverton, painting the sky in shades of victory. They'll try to fight this, she warned. Let them. Every document is authenticated, every signature legitimate except theirs. I closed my laptop, the Brightline Atelier logo glowing on its cover. They built the trap. I just changed who it caught. The signing table was arranged like an altar of justice, 3 copies of every document. Color-coded tabs marking signature lines, a court reporter transcribing every word. 4:17 p.m. And the final act of my revenge was about to be written in ink and witnessed by those who'd enabled the betrayal. Before we execute the final transfers, I announced, standing at the head of the table. I want to ensure everyone understands exactly what's being signed. Veronica sat rigid, her lawyer beside her a last-minute addition who'd arrived looking harried and underprepared. Dylan had no representation, claiming he couldn't afford it. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Page 1, I began. The Asset Transfer Agreement. Veronica Hale transfers all rights, titles, and interests in the Clearwater IP bundle, the Morrison Group designs, and the Riverside development materials to Brightline Atelier. This is coercion. Veronica's lawyer attempted. Rebecca didn't even look up from her notes. This is contract execution pursuant to a valid acceleration clause triggered by documented fraud. Your client wrote the terms herself. I continued. Page 12, the non-interference clause. Neither party will attempt to contact, solicit, or interfere with Brightline Atelier's clients or employees. For how long? Dylan asked weakly. In perpetuity? I smiled. Same term you gave the original loan forever. Luis added. North Star has already notified all affected clients. They've unanimously agreed to the transition. Page 18. I flipped through the document. The confession of judgment. By signing, you acknowledge the forgery, the embezzlement, and the conspiracy to commit IP theft. Veronica's pen hovered over the page. If I sign this, I'm admitting to crimes. Crimes you committed, Elijah interjected from his witness chair. I have 12 months of evidence showing this pattern. Sign it, or I'll ensure criminal prosecution moves forward regardless. The pen touched paper. One signature. Dylan. I turned to my soon-to-be ex-husband. Your signature page includes the dissolution of any claim to marital assets acquired through fraudulent means. Everything we built. Everything I built while you plotted to steal it. I placed the pen in front of him. Sign, or the FBI gets called in 17 minutes. His signature was barely legible, the hand that once wore my ring now trembling with defeat. Page 24, the restitution agreement. This was my favorite part. In lieu of immediate payment of $84,600, you agree to transfer all rights in the Meridian Consulting Shell Company and its assets to Brightline Atelier. That company is worthless, Veronica spat. Now it is, but it has contracts, relationships, and most importantly, banking history that shows your embezzlement pattern. I pulled up the forensic accounting report. Every dollar traced, every transaction documented. This becomes evidence of Brightline's legitimate acquisition, Rebecca added. Sign or face personal bankruptcy within 30 days. The acceleration clause makes this debt immediately collectible. More signatures. The court reporter's keys clicked steadily, recording every moment of capitulation. Finally, I said, placing the last document before them. The mutual release with one exception. You release all claims against me and Brightline Atelier. However, I retain the right to pursue criminal charges should any violation of these agreements occur. That's not mutual, Veronica's lawyer protested. Neither was forging my signature. I checked my watch. 4:31 p.m. Sign, or I make the call. The room fell silent except for the scratch of pens on paper. Each signature was a nail in the coffin they'd built for me, but now occupied themselves. When the last page was signed, I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. Speaker on. Special Agent Coleman. This is Harper Quinn. Regarding our 4 p.m. appointment, I'm calling to confirm that the parties have agreed to civil resolution with full restitution. Yes, I'll forward the signed confessions for your records. Veronica's face went white. You already called them insurance policy. They're particularly interested in your activities at Preston Communications. Seems another victim came forward last week. Security entered again, final escort. As they stood, I delivered one last revelation. Dylan, you should know I filed for divorce at 8 this morning. The papers will be served at the house you'll no longer be living in. And Veronica, I pulled up an email on my phone. The Design Leadership Summit didn't just rescind your invitation. They've banned you from all future events and are issuing an industry alert about IP theft. She stumbled at the doorway. You've destroyed everything. No, you destroyed everything the moment you forged my signature. I just documented it. As security led them through the office, I turned to the witnesses. Thank you all. Brightline Atelier appreciates your support. Marcus started applauding slow at first, then joined by others. The sound followed Dylan and Veronica's walk of shame through the cubicles. Luis handed me the final sealed documents. Congratulations, Ms. Quinn. Brightline Atelier is officially operational with full asset transfer. I signed the acknowledgement with my Mont Blanc pen, the blue-black ink flowing smooth and authentic. Effective immediately. Rebecca gathered the papers, each one a testament to preparation meeting opportunity. The acceleration clause has been fully executed. The debt is satisfied through asset transfer. The empire, as you called it, is yours. Through the conference room glass, I watched Dylan and Veronica reach the elevator, their careers and credibility in boxes at their feet. The doors closed on their futures while mine opened wide. First Brightline Atelier client meeting is Monday at 10 a.m. I announced to my new team, we have an empire to build. The last thing I did before leaving Northstar was update my email signature Harper Quinn, founder and creative director, Brightline Atelier, built on the ashes of betrayal, funded by their own fraudulent loan, and accelerated by the very clause they'd designed to trap me. Revenge, served at exactly the right temperature, documented, notarized, and absolutely devastating. Monday morning, 8:45 a.m. The nameplate gleamed on the door, Brightline Atelier, Creative Design Studio. My key turned smoothly in the lock, not stolen, not borrowed, completely mine. The space was modest 3,000 square feet on Riverton's emerging creative corridor, but it was ours. Marcus and the team had worked through the weekend, setting up workstations, installing design software, transferring client files. The Clearwater Industries contract sat on my desk, signed and redirected to Brightline's accounts. First client meeting in 15, Marcus announced, carrying coffee. Morrison Group confirmed for 2 p.m. Riverside Development at 4. I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching Riverton wake up. 3 blocks away, Northstar's tower caught the morning light. Somewhere in that building, Veronica's office sat empty, her nameplate already removed. Dylan's warehouse company had terminated him. Friday evening fraud tends to violate employment agreements. My phone buzzed. An email from Special Agent Coleman. Confession documents received. Preston Communications case moving forward. Your cooperation is appreciated. Another buzz. Elijah Ward. Saw the industry alert. 3 more victims contacted me this weekend. Class action likely. At 9 a.m. sharp. My team assembled in our conference room, clean lines, natural light, no ghosts of betrayal haunting the corners. Welcome to day 1, I began, pulling up our pipeline. We have 7 active clients, 12 in negotiation, and a reputation to build from scratch, which is exactly where I want to start. The Clearwater presentation went flawlessly. Their CEO, Margaret Chin, had specifically requested the transition to Brightline. We invest in integrity, she'd said. Your work was always yours. We're just making it official. By noon, we'd secured 2 contract extensions and a referral to a Fortune 500 company looking for rebranding. At lunch, Rebecca called. Dylan's trying to contest the divorce settlement. Let him. I have every document, every receipt, every Tuesday lunch recorded. That's what I told his bargain basement lawyer. They withdrew the contest an hour later. At 3:47 p.m., something unexpected happened. A delivery arrived, a single white orchid with a card. My stomach clenched until I read it. Congratulations on your new venture. Integrity always wins. The Tuesday lunch witnesses. The restaurant staff. They'd watched the pattern, served the betrayal appetizers and deception entrees, and stayed silent until asked. Now they sent their verdict in the form of a flower that would bloom on its own terms. By 5 p.m., Brightline Atelier had processed its first 6-figure invoice. The money hit our accounts clean, no forgery, no fraud, no strings except the ones we chose to weave. That evening, I stood in my empty house, Dylan's belongings removed by court order, the spaces he'd occupied now breathing freely. The divorce would be final in 60 days. No contest, no complications. He'd moved back to his mother's house in Indiana. Veronica had disappeared from social media entirely, her LinkedIn profile now showing career break. My phone lit up with a text from my father. Saw the announcement about your new company. Your mother and I are proud. That Mont Blanc pen was meant for signing important things. Indeed, it was. Tuesday arrived, the first Tuesday in 9 months that belonged entirely to me. At 12:30 p.m., I walked into Bistro Laurent. The hostess recognized me, her eyes widening. "Table for one," I said clearly. She seated me in the center of the restaurant, visible to everyone. I ordered the executive lunch special, paid with my Brightline Atelier corporate card, and left a receipt that told the truth. Harper Quinn, CEO, dining alone by choice. The empire was small but growing. 3 new clients signed by week's end. 2 major design awards submitted under Brightline's name. A feature article in Design Quarterly about Phoenix companies rising from corporate ashes. Dylan sent one email. 3 weeks later, "I'm sorry." I archived it without responding. Apologies without accountability are just noise. Veronica's professional obituary came via industry whisper networks, blacklisted from major firms, her reputation cremated by her own confession. The $70,000 loan she'd originated to trap me had become the exact price of her career. 6 months later, Brightline Atelier occupied the entire floor. 22 employees, 43 active clients, and a valuation that made those forged $70,000 look like pocket change. I kept one document framed in my office, not the forged note, not the confession, but the acceleration clause itself, the very words they'd written to destroy me. Upon discovery of fraud, all assets transfer immediately. They'd discovered my strength. I'd discovered their fraud. The assets in the future transferred accordingly. The last time I saw Dylan was in divorce court. He signed the final papers with a borrowed pen. I signed with my Mont Blanc, blue-black ink flowing like justice. The empire built on betrayal had become something better, a foundation of truth, mortared with evidence, rising higher than any lie could reach. From my office window, I watch Riverton transform, knowing I transformed with it. They gave me a loan I never requested, a debt I never owed, and a signature I never signed. I gave them exactly what they deserved: acceleration. The sun sets now through Brightline's windows, casting golden light on genuine success. My team works late because they choose to, building something real from the ashes of deception. My phone buzzes another client, another opportunity, another brick in an empire that no one can forge, steal, or accelerate except me. This is Harper Quinn, signing off with my own hand, in my own ink, on my own terms. The debt is paid. The empire stands. Thank you for listening to my story of betrayal, revenge, and triumph. I'm curious, where are you listening from today? Drop a comment below and let's connect across the miles. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your own thoughts about justice, second chances, or that moment when you realized you were stronger than those who tried to break you. Your stories matter too.